All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a really powerful psychological tool, one that pretty much dictates how we face challenges and ultimately whether we achieve our goals. And it's not just about confidence, it's a much more specific belief called self-efficacy. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had that feeling where you feel totally on top of, say, a history essay, but you're just filled with dread about a math test, even though you studied just as hard for both? That feeling, that difference, isn't about general confidence. It's about this much more precise idea, self-efficacy. Okay, so what exactly is this thing? To really understand the power of self-efficacy, we first have to get a really clear definition and separate it from all the other ideas it gets mixed up with. So here it is, the classic definition from psychologist Albert Bandura. Now, the wording here is so important. Notice it's not about a vague feeling of being good at stuff. No, it's a very specific cognitive judgment about your ability to perform the actual actions you need to take to hit a specific goal. It's that inner belief that says, yep, I can get this done. And this table right here really makes the distinction crystal clear. Self-esteem, for example, is that broad overall feeling of your own worth. Self-efficacy is laser-focused. It's context-dependent. It's not, am I good at English? It's, can I write this specific essay? And here's the most important part. Self-efficacy isn't some fixed personality trait. It's a tool that's meant to be changed and developed through experience. So, if self-efficacy is something we can build, the big question is, how? Where does it come from? Well, research points to four main sources that shape our belief in what we can do. First up, and this is the big one, by far the most powerful source, is mastery experience. This is the undeniable, cold, hard proof of your own success. You know, when you really struggle with something, but you stick with it and then you figure it out for yourself, that experience builds a deep, resilient belief in your own ability that nothing else can really touch. It's that pure, I did it moment. The second source is what we call vicarious experiences. You can just think of this as the power of role models. When you see somebody who's a lot like you succeed at something, it just plants this powerful little seed of belief in your head. Hey, if they can do it, then maybe I can too. It suddenly makes the goal feel way more achievable. Third is social persuasion. This is that encouragement you get from a teacher, a coach, or a mentor, someone you trust telling you, you've got this. And look, it can provide a nice temporary boost, but here's the catch. It's fragile. Unlike the deep belief built from your own success, this kind can shatter the moment you hit a real setback. So while it's helpful, it's just no substitute for that direct personal experience. And finally, our own bodies give us clues. That racing heart, the sweaty palms before a big test, we are constantly interpreting these signals. Someone with low self-efficacy might take those feelings as a sign of panic and failure. But someone with high self-efficacy can reframe those exact same feelings as excitement, as energy, as being psyched up for the challenge. The physical sensation is the same. The story you tell yourself about it changes everything. So now we know where self-efficacy comes from. Let's look at how it actually works in practice. Because this isn't just some passive feeling you have, it's an active ingredient that shapes the entire way you learn. Researchers talk about learning as this three-phase cycle. It kicks off with forethought. That's everything you do before you even begin. Then comes the performance phase, which is when you're actually doing the task. And it wraps up with self-reflection, which is how you process the outcome afterward. And self-efficacy plays a huge role in every single one of these stages. And its impact is maybe most powerful right at the start, in that forethought phase. Strong self-efficacy changes everything before you've even written a single word. You don't just hope for the best, you actively choose tougher tasks, you set higher goals, and you commit to putting in more effort and sticking with it. Your belief fundamentally shapes your entire plan of attack. Now, during the performance phase, that belief turns directly into action. High self-efficacy fuels better strategies. You're more likely to use self-instruction, talking yourself through the steps like, okay, first I'll tackle the intro. You're more disciplined with your time. Why? Because you genuinely believe that your effort is going to lead to success. It's the engine that drives productive work. And what about after the work is done? Well, that brings us to the self-reflection phase. How we judge our own performance is absolutely critical for either building up or tearing down our efficacy for the next time. See, when we evaluate our work, we tend to use one of two yardsticks. There's social comparison, which asks, did I do better than other people? The problem there is that it's unstable. Your confidence depends entirely on who's in the room. But then there's mastery comparison. This focuses only on self-improvement. It asks, am I better than I was before? Focusing on your own progress is a much better way to build sustainable efficacy. And what's really fascinating is what we blame when we fail. People with high self-efficacy tend to blame things they can control. They don't say, I'm just bad at math. They say, I used the wrong strategy, or I didn't manage my time well. When you blame a bad strategy, you stay motivated because, hey, a strategy is something you can always change next time. All of this brings us to what I think is the single most empowering conclusion from all this research. Self-efficacy is not some fixed trait that you either have or you don't. I love this quote because it just gets right to the heart of it. Trying to change someone's overall self-esteem is incredibly difficult. But self-efficacy, by its very nature, is designed to be changeable. It's meant to shift with experience, especially with those powerful mastery experiences we talked about. It is a skill you can cultivate.
So the takeaway here is clear. Self-efficacy is a powerful, adaptable belief that you can intentionally build, one experience at a time. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. For your next big challenge, what is one small, specific success, one mastery experience that you can engineer for yourself to start building that belief? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.